Hello, my name is Neil Coles of Coles Sewing Centre in Nottingham, and today I'm going to show you how to do a basic service on your Husqvarna Viking sewing machine so you can keep sewing during this lockdown period. So first things first, we need to make sure everything is safe. So make sure the machine is turned off and the power lead is removed. So the next thing we need to make sure we've got rid of is any thread. Remove any thread that's on the machine, remove the bobbin, and with the only tool you're going to need today, one of the screwdrivers in the accessory tray, remove the needle and the press foot. So now we've got the machine safe, we're going to start to take off the needle plate. So the way to do that simply is to take the screwdriver supplied with the machine, place it in the little gap to the right of the needle plate, and then just simply twist the screwdriver and the needle plate will pop up and come off. So remove the needle plate, place it out of the way. We then need to take out the bobbin case and its cover. So to remove the cover, simply lift it up and take it away. And then the bobbin case will come out. So if we just put our finger actually inside the bobbin case and the thumb at the back and just pull it away and towards us, it'll come out of place. Okay, so this area I would normally expect when the machines are being used to find lots of lint and debris in there. So we need to remove that lint and debris by means of a dust brush. You can blow it out, but bear in mind you're putting dust into the atmosphere, or get your Hoover vacuum cleaner pipe and just vacuum it out. So get this area nice and clear. We need also to ensure that the feed teeth here, this feed dub unit which feeds the fabric, these rows here are all clear of any debris as it builds up over time, and that would make your feeding inefficient, so you'd get short stitches when you expect long ones. You might find strange loops to your sewing as well, so make sure the area is clear. Now you see I'm turning the hand wheel at the moment and the needle's going up and down, and you can see the steel part is moving round. That's called the hook, and it moves round and it does 2 revolutions to one of the needle, and you'll see it's coming round now to meet the needle, and that's where it picks up the stitch to make the stitch. It takes it away now. Now it's doing that about 1200 times a minute at full speed, so it's doing a lot of hard work, and if there's any damage to that, it's going to impact on your stitching quality, or it may cause thread shredding or even breakage. And the way it can get breakage is through any part of this having any nicks or burrs on it caused by the needle hitting it. So if you rub your screwdriver blade around there, or I might actually prefer to do it with the fingernail, it's a bit more sensitive. So if you rub your fingernail around like so, if you find that your fingernail or the screwdriver blade stops, it gets into a little nick, that nick is going to cause problems with the threading, with the thread breaking. So we would need to remove that. Now the simplest way to remove that is just to use an emery board, standard emery board you use for cleaning your nails or for tidying up your nails, and just rub it one way to get rid of any damage. Now do be careful, because the hook point here which picks up the stitch is very sharp. It's as sharp as a needle and it will cut your finger. So just keep away from that part, but move your fingernail around the circumference of the hook, and also on the top part as well. So any damage on the top of it would cause problems with thread breaking. Okay, so once you've got that all cleaned up and cleaned out, you've done a little service on it. So the second area we're going to look at now is the thread cutter mechanism, if you have one on the machine, as these will become inefficient if they get debris into the cutter mechanism or any damage to the cutter mechanism. So we're going to open up the cutter mechanism now, and I'm just going to take the screwdriver blade and I'm going to push this sort of number 7 shaped or L-shaped arm across to the right, all the way over to the right. You see it's actually gone under the feed teeth here. So that's what's called the fetcher. That fetches the thread back to the cutting knife. Okay, so that's not actually got a cutter itself, it's just a fetcher. Now on the other side is the other fetcher, and we can actually lift this out now and have a look at it. And what happens is the thread gets looped around here, and then the fetcher pulls it pulls away to make the thread go taut, and then drags it onto the knife to cut it. So if we get any damage around this part here particularly, that can cause the thread to sort of hang on that rather than cut, and then the next time you start to sew, you find yourself with a nest of threads underneath, or the machine might struggle to sew. So we need to ensure that that's been cleaned up with a bit of emery as well if there's any damage to it. So you notice there's a hook there, and there's a couple of pips, 1, 2 on the top and 1 underneath. So this one is the pip that connects it to the cutter mechanism. So when we're putting it back in, we need our 2 pips to the top and that one to the bottom. And the way to reinsert it is there is a black hole, for want of a better word, just here. So this pip goes into that black hole, just like so. And just drops back in. Okay. So then we need to check the actual cutting knife itself. Now the knife is mounted onto this black piece of plastic here. Bear in mind that the actual cutter blade is extremely sharp, so keep your fingers away from that. So working towards the back of the cutter blade unit, we can lift it up, and you can see the knife blade here now. I'm keeping it away from my finger. It's coming up. We can turn that all the way up, and then we can just simply push away to remove the whole of the cutter unit. So I'm taking it out of the way for the moment, keeping my fingers away from that very sharp blade just there. Now you may well find that in here there's a lot of bits of thread that have been cut off over the period of use, and they just all need cleaning out. Okay, so once you've got that clean and there's none around in the actual cutter blade itself, we can replace it back into the machine. So the way to do it is by holding onto the plastic with our right hand probably, is to keep the cutter blade at 12 o'clock. And again, you'll notice a little pip here, a little part sticking out. Now this goes into a hole which is located adjacent to this particular hole here. So all we need to do is get the pip and take it towards that hole and push it till you find it drops in. And once it drops in, gently turn it down to the horizontal position. Okay, just like so. So once that's back in place, we just then need to bring the fetcher back to its left-hand position. So using the screwdriver, I can just push that along, and that's the cutter mechanism serviced and ready to go. So we've checked for dust and debris around the shuttle hook unit, which forms a stitch. We've cleaned out the feed dog teeth. We've cleaned out the thread cutter. So now we can start reassembling the parts we took out earlier on, which are the bobbin case, the bobbin case cover, and the needle plate. But before we put those in, we also need to check for damage to those. So this is the bobbin case. You see it's got these 2 sort of ears sticking up. We need to look for any damage along this area here, around this area here, around this area here, and then all along the circumference, all the way around this area here. Now if you find that a needle's maybe hit it over time, and you've got a needle mark in it, you need to just get your emery board again and just clean it off, just so it's no longer rough. So we're looking for smoothness. If there's been a big needle indentation into it, you're not going to be able to remove the whole of it, but just make sure that it's smooth so there's no chance of it catching the thread at all. So bearing in mind what we said earlier, 1200 stitches a minute when it's running at full speed. Even if you're running at half speed, you've got 600 stitches a minute. That means thread is passing over that, and all this stitch forming area here is between 600 and 1200 stitches a minute. So you can imagine how much a little bit of thread, a little bit of damage can cause. If the thread's been pulled over it like that, it's going to break it. So we're just looking for good all-round smoothness to all those parts. Okay, so to replace the bobbin case, with the 2 ears away from you, facing towards the back of the machine, you simply just place it in, give it a wiggle, and it'll find its own home. So it should just rock nicely when it's back in place. So the next area then we're going to look at is the bobbin case cover. Now, any damage to that would be on this inside channel here. So again, we just get our fingernail, which is nice and sensitive, and just run it around inside that channel. If you find again any needle burrs on it, any damage, just get your emery paper and just take them off. So once that's ready to go in, it's simply there's a little lug here. So you have the lug going down and it just drops into place like so. Now the needle plate itself has actually got already got a cutout on it just here. You can just see it just here. That is manufactured that way, and that helps with the thread cutting. So don't be worried if you see that there, you've not damaged the plate. But if there's any damage to the right of that or to the front here where a needle's hit it, maybe a bent needle's hit it, then again with your emery board or emery paper, just clean it off so that it's no longer rough and likely to damage the thread. Okay, so when you're happy with that, just have a look at the plate as well, and just make sure on a table that it's actually level. We do get occasionally where a needle maybe have hit the plate and it's forced the arms, like here, of the plate down a little bit, so the actual hole in the plate is lower than the plate itself. So you put it on a table, very easy to see if that's the problem. If you have managed to bend it down a bit, you just need to take a toffee hammer or something and just tap it back until it's back into shape. Okay, so to refit the plate to the machine, you'll notice this lug at the back and there's 2 springs at the front. Now the lug at the back just goes into a cutaway in the grey plastic at the back of the bobbin case area. So all we need to do to introduce it is to take it in and then press the 2 springs down like so. So then we're going to have a look at the presser foot, and again we're looking for any damage, debris to the presser foot. So just check this area here and around here. Also the line, if there's any lines sort of dug into it here, they need all fetching off. And at the front, just this area here. So if you've got a cut out there where a needle has hit it, it may not break the thread, but you may well find that you get strange loops occasionally. So it might stitch perfectly for 20 stitches and then the 21st it's got a funny loop. That's usually caused by damage to the presser foot in some way. Okay, so we know how to put those back on. They just pop straight back on. And then what we do to suggest you do then is put in a new needle, and then you should be ready to sew. So hopefully that keeps you going during this lockdown period, and if your machine needs a proper service at the end of it, we will be available as soon as we can reopen. Thank you for your time today.